Justin Stoddard here, Think Bigger Mastermind. Excited about the episode that's going to be in the link below. I'm here with Chad Wallen, just amazing family man. He has a mission, which is to be a father to the fatherless. And so this interview that you're going to listen to here is going to talk about how he's been able to do that and how he's inviting and encouraging people in our area and around the world really to take really seriously what he's done and do something similar, because the need is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my challenge to everybody that watches this video, my goal would be in the Portland Metro, at least 5 people that watch this video decide I want to step into fostering. Like, what do I need to do? What's my next steps to become a foster parent to bless another kid's life?
Cool. So go in either with that in mind for you or someone you know, but the need would probably make you cry. It's huge, and there's so many wonderful families out there that would benefit as a result of this. So please watch the episode, share with as many people as you can, because I'm on board with Chad's mission of finding 5 families to help support the youth in need out there. So thanks so much. Look forward to hearing your replies. Thanks. So the big question is this: how do those of us with crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we simultaneously seek success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard, and welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind. Excited to be here on the Think Bigger Mastermind with a friend of mine, Chad Wallen. Chad is a successful professional here in the Portland area, but we're not really here to talk necessarily about his business life, although he's very successful in that realm. We're here to talk about how he really leads a life of big impact, somebody who's really in big pursuit of significance. And so I'm excited to have his story. I'm hoping it will impact a lot of people. I know his story has impacted my life. And so Chad, tell us really quick just a little bit about who you are. And quick disclaimer, Chad actually is going to sound a lot like Barry Manilow. So you're a treat. It's a treat for you today because he doesn't always sound like that. Just Oregon allergy season is in full effect. And so we get this deep radio voice. So if you seek out Chad for his radio voice, you might be disappointed afterward.
Yeah, it's true.
It might be temporary.
Yeah. So I've been living around Oregon for 38 years. And probably in the last, it's been actually almost exactly 4 years now. My wife and I have been pursuing and working with a foster care system, which is also stemmed into serving the fatherless is the core of it. Okay. It's the core of our heart behind it. Working with both foster care system, and then I run an advanced camp, which is specifically for fatherless young men. So it's young men that don't have a dad in their life, and be able to teach them skills that dad could have, would have, should have if they were in their life. So opportunity to walk beside them through things. Some things we don't even know how to do, and we invite professionals in that teach that part of the class. So if it's a construction weekend, we'll bring in a contractor that's done this before, that does this every day, and has a heart to serve young men and teach them these skills. Cool. So the core of that weekend is to teach them skills that they can better their lives with, whether it's knowing a skill just to be able to work around the house, or to turn into a job or a trade later in their life. So it's been that part's been really cool. On the fostering side, we've been fostering for about 4 years. I've had 10 kids. Most of them have been longer stays. That's why we've had so few in a 4-year period. And our current one is a little 8-month-old little boy. So it's been fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
So that's some of the ways in which kind of Chad's mission and passion and pursuit of impact and significance, the way he thinks bigger, right, is in pursuit of helping be a father to the fatherless. When I first heard him say that, it was in a group setting, and I thought, wow, I got to get to know this guy because that's a really powerful mission. I tend to be, for those of you that know me well, a father of a small family, 6 kids, and I think that sometimes I'm given great accolades like, oh my goodness, that's amazing that you do that. I think an even step higher is offering that selfless service to those children that aren't even yours. So I'm sure probably there's some foster parents, or maybe even those that have been fostered that are in our audience today, that could probably kind of relate and even want to thank you and your wife for what you do. What led you to want to be a foster parent? How did this all start?
It actually all started from me wanting to mentor young men.
Okay.
I always joke about it that God has a sense of humor, because I wanted to mentor young men, and my wife and I went to an actual group at our church to learn about DHS, mentoring, fostering, and adoption. And while we're at this group, they said, okay, here's all the base information. Where do you guys want to go from here? If you want to go learn about mentoring, you go to this room. You want to learn about fostering, go to this room. And if you want to learn about adoption, go to this room. And so we could break out, ask questions. They actually had some people in the foster care system, some kids from the foster care system or have graduated out of it, there to answer questions. And so we start walking, and I start walking towards the mentoring and fostering, and my wife starts walking towards the adoption one. And we're like, whoa, where are you going?
I thought we talked about this ahead of time.
Yeah, I thought we were going to adoption. I was like, no, I thought we were going to mentoring. And so we actually settled on fostering, and because fostering is really, in my mind, is kind of that middle ground, right? You can treat fostering as mentoring and lifting up kids and showing them love and being that piece, but you can also foster a child and find out their parental rights of their mom or dad have been terminated, or they're now property of the state and they need a permanent home, and you can be a part of that. And so we weren't going into foster to adopt. DHS actually doesn't encourage that. They encourage you to either foster or adopt. So we go to this meeting to foster, learn about that, and I've always wanted to work with young men. That was really the goal, is to be able to be that launching ground for them, and to help prevent them from ending up in jail.
What was the statistic you shared with me about?
It's about 95% of men in prison didn't have a positive male role model in their life.
95%.
Yeah.
That's nearly all of them, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a very, very small percentage in there that had some positive role models. So, I'm very passionate about the family. Part of the reason why my wife and I are committed to having a big family, is that we really believe that where the family goes, so society goes. Strong families, strong community, strong society.
Absolutely.
Weak families, weak society, weak community. So I couldn't agree more. That really resonates with me, that statistic of how important it is for fathers to show up, right?
Yep.
And to be fathers.
Yep. Yeah, it's always funny to talk to people and educate them on the power of the father, of being that role model for the kids, and getting on the right trajectory of life, and and learning. So
yeah,
it's one thing that my wife is amazing with. Being a mom and loving them, and then to have that partnership really helps out with it. Serving that fatherless.
So when you got into fostering, Chad, what surprised you? Like, what did you not expect to have happen?
Probably the biggest surprise. I wouldn't say how easy it was for me. When you have that passion behind it, you look past some of the really tough parts.
Yeah.
There's every foster care situation, there's a tough part to it. Whether you're sitting down with one of your kids, just crying with them because mom didn't show up to a visit that they only get to see their mom once a week for an hour. And mom didn't show up, or showed up with 15 minutes left in the meeting, and talk through that with them, or finding out that their parents just lost their parental rights and now they don't technically have a family anymore.
They're property of the state. I heard you say that. I didn't realize that's how it's
the state.
Damn.
Yeah. So, it becomes. I wouldn't say easy, but it becomes easier. I wasn't expecting that, of being like, man, it's just going to be a struggle every day. Like, foster kids are just hard. It's when you have that passion behind what you can do to change their life forever. You look past those hard moments. One of the things I tell every kid that's ever walked in our house, because most of our kids that we've had are school age. Sibling sets. That's our goal. That's one of the hardest groups to place. Sibling sets specifically, because most homes are like, oh, I'll take a single baby, or I'll take a single teenager. But to take a sibling set and say, hey, I'm I'm going to multiply the size of our family by 2 or 3 or sometimes 5 kids in one placement. It can be pretty overwhelming. And so we've specifically sought after the sibling sets and school age. And I tell all of them that, my goal is that when you leave our home, you'll be in a better place than you were when you walked in, whether it be diet, exercise, feeling love, how to seek out love, how to receive love, hygiene, all those bits and pieces are taught. One thing that we don't intentionally teach and just luckily happens naturally in our family is these kids walk into a home that they see what a solid, loving, functional family looks like because they haven't ever experienced it. They come in with a broken family, whether it be only mom or only dad, or mom and dad live together, but there's domestic violence or there's chemical abuse.
So maybe they've seen it on TV, but like to them, it's almost like this fantasy of like that's not what family looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they walk in and see, okay, these aren't actors.
Yeah.
I'm not watching TV here.
Yeah.
This is actually a mom and dad that are respectful to each other. They care about the kids. They're not intoxicated, right?
Yep. We sit down and have dinner together. Like we see that as normal, right? This is just how you do life.
Yeah.
You sit down and have a meal together. You have a healthy breakfast to start the day. You sit down and do your homework together. And that's foreign to them. And so to be able to get that trajectory of that's what their life is going to look like moving forward, that's the coolest part about it. So that was probably the most surprising, is to go through those steps and being surprisingly comfortable with that stuff, like being pretty easy to do, easy, right?
Yeah.
In relation.
Well, it became natural for you because it was one, you have a heart for it, right, and a passion for it.
Yeah.
The part that I think is interesting is that some of the stuff that maybe we take for granted, having grown up in maybe a functional home or working to develop a functional home, right? Things like dinner together. I heard it once said from one of my mentors that what your kids want most for dinner is you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That just to have a family dinner and the impact on that. Some of my greatest, even spiritual mentors have talked about some of the most simple things like family prayer, family dinner, like as being the fundamental thing that kids need. And I think because it's so simple and so small, it's oftentimes overlooked, even in very functional homes.
Yeah.
Right? And I would say to some degree that we're even working on this as a family, is that technology can almost take a functional family and make them dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can see that.
That you've got kids on iPad here, kid watching YouTube up here, some kid playing video games here, and you've almost recreated this dysfunctional family, right?
Yeah.
Where kids are going to some other source for what life should look like.
Yep.
I've had this conversation with my son recently, who's been watching kids on YouTube playing video games. And I'm like, these kids are in their late 20s, and I'm like, I don't want you to be living at my house playing video games when you're in your mid 20s. I want you to be productive, having graduated from college, having potentially started a family if you want, being a positive contributor to society. I don't see these kids as doing that. Therefore, I have to limit the time that you're spending with these kids. In fact, last night I cut it off entirely because I felt it was sucking him in, and he couldn't make good decisions on what that should look like. So I think even in seemingly functional homes, we have to fight dysfunction, right? And those things that you mentioned that you bring into your home and invite kids who maybe never experienced that. It's not so much that you've got to do magical things to them. It's just invite them in to see this is what a healthy family looks like, healthy relationships.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Well, and I think people take it. I'm not going to play down what it takes to be a foster parent, but the core function. I had somebody come to me the other day. We're sitting talking, and my wife and I, we walk this line of talking about fostering because we don't want to be lifted up because of it.
I mean, like I'm proud of it because
exactly.
I'm a foster parent.
Yeah,
I'm so cool.
Exactly. And so we're pretty careful about talking about it. And finally, I came to a point with my wife. I'm like, okay, if I bring it up though, it's opened up doors for people to say, I've been thinking about doing that. I thought that was too scary.
Yeah.
No, it's not, and I'll happily sit down and have lunch with you and tell you about my experiences. Cool. So it's opened up some really good conversations because of it. One of the conversations I had, the guy tells me, oh man, I don't know how to do it. That's so awesome, but I could never be a foster parent. I just couldn't do it. I was like,
probably all feel like that to some degree, right?
Yeah, I think there's a piece of everybody. It's like, oh, I love him too much. I couldn't let him go. We hear that all the time. And I told the guy, I look and I go, okay, you have 2 little girls, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, do you feel like you're a good husband? I would like to think so. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel like you're a good dad? Yeah, I love my girls. I definitely think I'm a good dad. Okay. Do you feel like you guys have, like, you and your wife have, like, a good relationship? Yeah. I said, dude, you could be a foster parent. Like, to the core of it, a kid walks into your home and they see a functional, loving family, changes their world.
It can be that simple.
It's that simple.
You simply just expose them to what you've already created, right?
Yeah. There's tools out there to help if they got learning disabilities. There's tools out there to get them counseling. There's tools all over the place to help you along the way. The core is, if you got a loving family, you're a good dad, you're a good mom. Like, those pieces are so strong. Yeah. The other thing that, as you're talking, it reminded me of structure. You're talking about, like, creating a dysfunctional family, right? Mm-hmm. In today's, with all the technology, and we have seen how much our kids have thrived in life. We always compare every foster kid. Are they surviving or are they thriving? And are we creating an environment for them to thrive? And the one thing I've noticed is the more structure we have, the more they thrive. We have the same bedtime every night. We have a healthy breakfast every morning. We do this amount of reading every night. We do this amount of schoolwork. We do, X, Y, and Z. We go to church every Sunday morning. Having things that they can expect to happen in life that are positive, like, it takes them a while, don't get me wrong. It takes them a while. They're like, something's going to break. I know something's going to break because that's my experience. Right. And then they start seeing it happen week after week after month after month. And they're like, okay, this is cool. Like, I can thrive in my situation now because I don't have to worry about, am I going to be sleeping in a house or in a car in Target parking lot? They're like, I have a house, I have food, I have school, I have clean clothes, I have structure. And now they can set that stuff aside and start working on bettering themselves.
It's interesting you say that. I'm reminded of a couple of things. Number one, a common mentor of ours and friend of ours, Tony Gillard, spoke yesterday about Jocko Williams. I don't know if I'm getting his name right, but he's the former Navy SEAL that talked about discipline equals freedom, right? And so I'm reminded of that as you're speaking this, that there's, as we discipline ourselves, life doesn't get harder. Life actually gets a lot better. Yeah. I'm reminded of another book that I was introduced to years ago called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And it was a look at societies that have really flourished over the history of the world, and how in recent times we have more prosperity than ever before, right? And the concept behind it is that in times past, because we didn't have the farming technology, people had to spend all their time and effort on how am I going to survive? Yeah. Where am I going to find a safe place where I don't get eaten by beasts, and food to where I'm going to be able to not starve to death. Yeah. And that was their whole focus. And it took all of the energy of their day to do those couple of things, right? And protect their children. Yep. Once technology and the specialization of labor and the industrial revolution, those things began to be easier for them to have. And so they could then focus on education, on bettering themselves. And so I see some comparisons here to where kids that are coming out of these broken homes, it's almost as if they lived like in olden times, right? Like, it's not that they're concerned they're going to get eaten by a wildcat, right? But it's concerned that they're going to be exposed to someone who's going to abuse them, right? To where their mind is in survival mode, it can never be in thrive mode. Yep. So by you introducing them to an environment that's safe and dependable, and it allows them to spend their emotional, spiritual, mental efforts on things that will help them move forward. Makes sense. That's really, really powerful concept. Yeah. Is that's what you're doing for humankind, for these children, is you're saying these things that you used to now worry about all the time, they're a given. Yeah. So now we can spend time on bettering yourself. Yeah. improving yourself and contributing to the world, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Very cool.
You know that the car in a Target parking lot story is one of our last foster girls that we're still involved with. She's actually in the process of being adopted right now by a family. You know, and I remember sitting there and it was raining, surprise, surprise, in Oregon, right? And she looks out the window and she goes, "Oh man, I'm so glad I'm not living with my mom anymore." I said, "Whoa, your mom's a nice lady." She goes, "Yeah, I know, but if I was living with my mom, it's raining right now, so it'd be me and my brother and her girlfriend in our car in the Target parking lot." I'm like, "Why don't you go in the store?" "Well, my mom's girlfriend used to steal from the store, so if we went in there, we'd get kicked out." I'm like, "Okay, well, then go to the mall. Like, you can walk around the mall, it's dry and warm." And she goes, "Most of the time the car didn't run." I said, "So you're telling me that every time it rained, the four of you guys sat in a Honda Accord until the rain stopped?"
Which sometimes is months in Oregon.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
And so just the realization of that surviving, like, at that point, your main focus is food in your belly and staying dry. Mm-hmm. It's not, what am I going to do for my math homework so I can get into 5th grade?
Right.
Right.
Prepare myself for high school and potentially college one day and a career.
Yeah.
That's not even on your mind, right?
Exactly. It's strictly surviving. Like, how am I going to make it through this rainstorm?
Yeah. Chad, what's the deficit when it comes to parents who are willing to foster and the need? Any idea?
It's I right now, I don't have specific statistics, but it's backwards. Mm-hmm. Now they're searching for homes to put kids in and pushing them to their capacity. We are technically certified to have, I think, 4 kids, and we have 3 of our own and then 1 little foster boy.
So 4 total or 4 foster?
4 total.
Okay.
4 total, based on our home size and our room allotment. But they'll push homes to their capacity. Mm-hmm. And I know about a year ago, they were so full that they had sleeping quarters in Tigard that the foster kids would go and stay in at night from 6 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. They would stay with their certified or their caseworker from the time they got out of school until 6 o'clock. And then the caseworker would have to pick them up at 6 in the morning, keep them in the office until school started.
Wow. And
then they'd have adults sleeping in these places overnight to give them a place to stay. We partner with a nonprofit called Embrace Oregon and Every Child, their sister nonprofits. And their goal is to gain enough foster families that they have foster families seeking foster kids to fill their home rather than foster care systems seeking parents or seeking homes to put kids in. So their big goal is, how many foster families can we have to take that burden off the state, that they can look and say, this kid has these special needs and that needs this special attention and doesn't do good with animals but loves older brothers. Okay, here's a family that is an exact match. Yeah. This is perfect. Versus saying, okay, well, he doesn't like dogs, but doesn't say he doesn't like cats. This family has a cat, but doesn't have an older brother, has a younger sister. I bet you we can kind of make it work. It's an oval peg going into a round hole, so we can probably make it work. So they're making things work instead of, once again, creating an environment that thrives versus just survives. So.
Talk to me, if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll probably wrap up here shortly. Although I feel like I could quiz you all day on this stuff. I'm fascinated by your story. These young men's camps.
Oh yes.
Right. So it's off-site somewhere, and these young men are brought in out of foster care, or how do they choose the young men that are coming into this?
Most of them are by word of mouth.
Okay.
There is and has been a couple young men in there that have been in foster care in the past, but they're now in environments that they're with a mom only. Okay. So where we actually do the camp at, it's based out of, is Five Rock Ranch in Yamhill County. And their goal, they create themselves off of a bullseye or target, right? So their bullseye is single moms. So they help single moms, whether it be getting out of situations of drug abuse or physical abuse, domestic violence, all that stuff. So rescue them out of those environments, create a stable living place, and then set them up to be successful back out in life as a single mom. The second ring of the bullseye, or of the target, is the fatherless young men, and then the outside one is what they call the fumbling adult. So it could be somebody like myself that maybe issues with drugs, or had a mental breakdown. There's a guy that I know that he lost his roommate that committed suicide, and he said, no other way to put it, I lost it. Like, I could not function in society. So steps away, goes to Five Rock Ranch. Well, Five Rock Ranch every year does a single mom's camp, and it's a way to rejuvenate them, give them an opportunity to like have fun and relax and be a woman rather than just a single mom, because I honestly don't know how they do it. Like, I'm a single dad for a weekend because my wife goes away, to hang out with her girlfriends or whatever, and she gets back, I'm like, oh, I'm glad you're back. I don't know how they do it. And so
I get it.
These single moms end up getting, if they're in a situation that their son is older than the first day of 6th grade and no older than the last day of the senior year, they can apply to be part of this advanced camp. And it's to be able to teach them those skills. Most of them come to us and say, I don't know how to do these things, and I don't know how to speak into their lives as their dad should have. Can you help me out? And I also know this other lady that her son could really benefit from this. So a lot of it's word of mouth referral. Every once in a while I'll hear of or see a situation, I'll seek them out, but that's pretty rare. Most of the time we are pretty full just from word of mouth referrals.
So you volunteer to go up there, spend an evening, a weekend? Okay.
Yep. So it's from Friday night until Sunday at noon.
Okay.
And it's we are technically an event for Five Rock Ranch. So Five Rock itself runs, it's their program that I run, but we run as separate from the ranch, because there's some of the young men that come to the camp that live out there. So that's always that weird line of, well, I live here, so I'll just go off and do my own thing while I'm here. It's a very focused time. So Friday night we start off with just learning about what the weekend's going to look like. Saturday is the training, the event, whatever. Do something fun, because some of the topics are kind of heavy.
Like, give me an example of a heavy topic.
We've actually had the moms come to us and say, hey, can you talk to our young men about the sex talk?
Birds and the bees.
Birds and the
bees. It's on you, man.
Yep. And so we're like, yes, because we want to serve these single moms. Like, we want these young men to have good knowledge, right? We've done some. We did one that was masonry. So it was really cool. Brought out a guy that's been doing masonry for 25 years. We built both a river rock fire pit with mortar and everything. Like, it is a solid fire pit. And we built a brick stoop. So they got to learn how to do brick masonry and natural river rock stone masonry.
Cool.
That's it. I mean, that's a pretty hardcore, like...
Yeah, it's a marketable skill too, right?
It is, right? So they leave camp with a skill to be able to follow it, a trade. But it's a lot of work. So we're like, okay, if I was a 13-year-old young man, if I was moving rocks and doing masonry all day, I want to go play. Like, I want to go have some fun. And so we'll find some kind of fun thing to do. We use Family Fun Center in Wilsonville every once in a while. And the owner there has been grateful enough to offer us a donation for our camp to be able to take the young men out there. So we've done that a couple times. During the summer ones, if it's a tough camp, we'll load them up in the shuttle vans, take them to Dairy Queen, and
cool.
Just give them something fun to kind of break up that it's hard work, and so teach them a skill, and then go have some fun.
What I think it's pretty apparent to myself, and I'm sure any that are listening to this, the impact on the young men, right, and or the foster children. What has this done for you and your wife? Like, what's been maybe the surprising side benefit, right? I mean, you did this not for yourselves. You did it because you saw a need and you wanted to help. What's been the side effect for you guys? How's it changed even your heart and your life, your like the way you think about the world in which we live, and maybe even expanded, kind of going back to the theme of this show, right? Which is the Think Bigger Mastermind. Yeah. How's it helped you to think bigger?
Well, I mean, core, when we first started fostering, one thing that we realized real quick is you have two options as a husband and wife. Is these kids sometimes will try to divide and conquer, and you have two options. You can let that happen, and it can cause strife in your family. My wife and I, it has built us to be way stronger to handle all kinds of stuff.
Your marriage is better as a result.
Way better,
because
way
you're
stronger.
Navigating challenges together.
Yep.
Cool.
Sit down at night and break down the day, right? Okay, what happened today? What was this? What was that? How do we approach that in a positive way tomorrow? We have a liar or we have a deceiver. Okay, how are we going to work through that to better their life, right? Move them in the right direction. So it causes constant conversation and causes us to be stronger. But I think the biggest thing is it just constantly pushes us to, okay, why are we doing this? And so what's our intention behind it? And how can we improve it, right? So we're just fostering, I say just, we're fostering and serving in that way, and then be able to come beside Embrace Oregon, which is across the state, right? Okay, now how can we recruit other foster parents? And we try to create that trickle-down effect, right? You affect one person who goes and affects one person who affects one person. And so our goal now is, I will talk about fostering with the intentions of, in the hopes of opening somebody else's mind to knowing this is a possibility and it's not this big scary thing to go into. So I look at it being able to partner with Embrace Oregon, of the thinking bigger part of it is getting to that point where there's foster families lining up to get kids rather than kids lining up in an office waiting for a family.
That's your big vision.
Because that's people that want to love what they're doing like we did. Like the steps aren't as hard when you love what you're doing. So you start opening up, because I'm sure there's people out there listening right now, they're saying, oh, I'd love to do that, but, well, hopefully this opens up that thought of, you know what, I need to look into this a little further and see what this looks like. And if, because this podcast gets 5 people, I mean, 5 families that could love on some kids. Well,
the trickle-down effect of that, right, is massive. Right? What it does for one life and how they could end up either incarcerated or building a family and doing a similar impact that's been happening to them. Right? It's just, we never know the impact we're going to have.
And we always hear about it. I was a foster kid and my family loved me and got me into a place. Now I have a college education and I'm serving society in one way or another. So they can either be an asset to society or they can be a detriment. And my goal is that every single one of our kids becomes an asset. I had actually a fear before I ever had kids that I didn't want to bring kids into this world. And I heard a pastor say that you have 2 options. You can let the world change your child, or you can train your child to change the world. And so 3 little girls at home, our goal is to train them to be world changers. Well, now we've had the opportunity to have 10 more kids in our home that also now could be world changers. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's kind of an emotional thing for you.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite quotes is that no success will compensate for failure in the home. And then one of my favorite quotes is that there will be no work greater than the work you do within the walls of your own home. Right? I'm sure that kind of resonates with you and your ability now to bring people inside there. I even want to make a case. It was interesting. I was in Las Vegas for a big company event recently, and Las Vegas is an interesting place. Lots of lights, lots of beautiful architecture, but you also saw kind of the ugly side of it. And you saw this portrayal of what some people in society deem as a successful man or life, right? Which is kind of this hustler, right? Of not really having any family type relationship. You just go wherever you want to go and have relationships with whoever you want to have, right? You just kind of see that pretty prominently. And I had this thought when I was there, is that, and of course I don't live that life, so I can't judge it.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine a life more happy and more satisfying than one in which there's a stable home and there's love between a man and his wife and children, right? And so I really appreciate what you've shared, and I think hopefully there are even some young people out there that are kind of deciding what their life's going to look like, and identifying what may be true happiness for them. And I'll make a case and a witness myself, saying that life gets really, really good and really, really happy and really, really productive when home is a really stable place, and when you can invite others, whether your own children or others, into that home to help them become productive in society as well. So I just want to thank you, number one, for being on the show, and even more importantly, for being the man that you are, showing an example to all of us what real manhood looks like, that it's less about what I described in Vegas and more about what you've described here. And I hope that this has a ripple effect upon some of our listeners, and it causes all of us to think a little bit bigger about our role in the world and the impact that we can have. So thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind with me, your host, Justin Stoddard. Now, here's how you can show me some digital love in return. Number 1, subscribe to the show. Number 2, give me a review. And number 3, go think bigger.